This is the SEC on ESPN as we welcome you to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. LSU and UConn, part of Feast Week, presented by Lowe's. LSU coming in 3-0 so far on this young season. The four-time defending champions with two impressive wins against Florida State and number 2 Baylor. And we welcome you to Baton Rouge. Pam Ward along with Hall of Fame coach Gail Gestenkors. And the Huskies off to a fast start. Usually not too surprising, but this year they had 3 huge losses.
Absolutely, and the big 3 we all know went number 1, 2, and 3 in the draft. But along with that, they took over half of UConn's scoring, rebounding, assists, and blocked shots. So there are big shoes that need to be filled this season.
And so far, some of those big shoes have been filled by relatively small feet. Crystal Dangerfield's dynamic.
She absolutely is. She has the it factor. She can drive to the basket. She can hit the 3. She had it on full display against the Baylor Bears when she had 19 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and only has 1 turnover on the season.
That is Alexis Hyder making her entrance for LSU. She is their leading scorer and rebounder, and UConn has not only won 4 straight national championships, they have so many numbers that just really look like they're incorrect. They're that good. They have now won 77 straight basketball games, which is second all-time in women's basketball to the 90 straight that they won from the 2008 to 2010 seasons. Gino Auriemma now with 11 national championships. They've won 109 straight against unranked teams. You have to go back almost 5 years ago to when they fell to St. John's. And how about this, Gail? Out of their last 125 games overall, they've won 124 of them.
It's just remarkable. The consistency. It's one thing to win championships here and there, but they have consistently beaten everybody, all comers, and they do that with great maturity, great leadership. And that's one thing that Gino's unsure about this year. He's like, who are our leaders going to become this year? So if there's ever a year to get them, this is going to be it.
They're coming off their 6th undefeated season and their 11th straight 30-win season. Duke had 7 straight 30-win seasons back when my esteemed colleague was there, and UConn has you in the rearview mirror there. They have been a fantastic basketball team. Gino Auriemma talking about how they're trying to find a leader and trying to find their identity, but so far so good for the unbeaten Huskies. And his starting lineups including Katie Lou Samuelson, who is trying to expand her game a little bit, has not been shooting the ball particularly well. We are underway. LSU last year struggled. In fact, Nikki Fargas had her one and only season in which she did not have a winning record since she became a head coach, and that's a good start.
And that's a great sign for LSU, and Coach Fargas said we need to score early to have that confidence and feel good about ourselves. We've seen them go through some major scoring droughts. She felt like it was so important early on to be able to hit those first couple of shots.
That was Regine Moncrief, who only played all of 3 games last year before her season ended with an injury. Gabby Williams all the way across court to Kia Nurse, who has not been shooting the ball well at all. She is now 3 of 18 from the floor, shooting under 18% for the season.
She has been, and she's the one player probably with the most experience, she and Katie Lou, and they seem to be feeling the pressure of trying to lead this team.
Gabby Williams got hit on the arm as she went up, and that will be a foul against Hyder, Alexis Hyder, who is a player that Nikki Fargas certainly cannot afford to lose.
Yeah, Alexis Hyder, really their leader, especially in the post. They do not have a lot of size, don't have a lot of depth. 15 points, 8 rebounds she's averaging for them. She's got to stay in the game.
Gabby Williams misses the first of 2 free throws, and there's Gino Auriemma, just this summer won a 2nd gold medal as the U.S. Olympic team head coach, and 77 straight wins and counting as Williams hits 1 out of 2. LSU's starting lineup on the floor. Ayanna Mitchell is the only player on this team who gets appreciable minutes, who's over 6 feet tall. As Gail mentioned, they are very undersized, but this is a small UConn team as well.
Yeah, and you can see we're going to see a lot of zone. LSU, they almost always play zone. UConn, Gino said they're going to have to play more zone this year than they have in the past.
Shot clock winding down. Tough shot for Jackson, who missed everything, but the rebound taken down by Nafisa Collier, the sophomore from O'Fallon, Missouri, who is off to a good start. 28 points, brilliant against Florida State. And there's Gabby Williams underneath for her first field goal of the game.
And Connecticut feels like their post players can outrun the LSU post players, so they're looking to score early in transition.
Another difficult shot. That's off the mark. Samuelson gets it, and LSU gets back in transition defense. These two teams played last year in Hartford. UConn won by 46 points, the third worst loss ever for LSU. UConn did that with Brianna Stewart taking the day off. But LSU was down to only 6 scholarship players last year because of injuries. Totally different feel with this year's team.
Yeah, I think LSU, Nikki Fargas did really probably her best coaching job last year, considering all of the injuries and illness that they had to go through, down to 6 players at one time. She said sometimes she had 4 players in practice. She added 3 walk-ons midway through the season just to have enough practice players. Including
a softball player, which usually doesn't happen. Sometimes you'll hear about volleyball players coming over, but she had to dip into Beth Torina's softball team. Chong spots up.
And against this matchup zone that LSU plays, those 3-point shots are going to be available. So we're going to see UConn make the extra pass and look for those wide open 3-pointers on the skip pass.
UConn hitting 40% of their threes on the season, and they lead it now 6-2. Good defense. Baseline jumper is put home by Chloe Jackson. She is a transfer from NC State. Her first year playing here for LSU.
And Chloe's got a great upside. She loves that pull-up jumper, about 15 feet. LSU's got a lot of players that hit that 15-foot pull-up jumper. Not a lot of 3-point shooters, so it's going to be important to move the ball and get those 15-footers to fall.
Let's take a look now at Gail Gestencourt's keys to this game, starting with the Huskies.
And again, Connecticut wants to make it a track meet, get up and down the floor. If not, when that defense gets set, they need to show some patience versus the zone. LSU, conversely, needs to hit that offensive glass. Connecticut has proven they're not doing a great job boxing out on the defensive end, so those offensive rebounds will really be there. I mean, they've got to stay aggressive. Do not foul, all right? They got to stay on the court.
Ball staying with UConn as Samuelson's about to throw it in. UConn 7th in the nation in rebounding margin last year. This year they are -5 in the rebounding department in their 2 games. Baylor badly out-rebounded them on Thursday night, but UConn was able to come away with a big quality win.
And if you're LSU, you need those extra possessions. You've got to get some steals. You've got to get some offensive boards. Every possession matters.
UConn out to the 6-4 lead. Jackson gets it over to Mitchell, who gets it back out.
And they're going to, anytime you see this head tap, both teams, when they call the head tap, that means come give me a ball screen.
Jackson's shot was off the mark. Sanaya Chong, a senior, gives it up. Another outside shot. Nurse, now 0 for 2 from outside. We've seen UConn take a lot of outside shots so far.
They have, and that's what happens sometimes when a team plays zone. They can lull you into taking those quick threes. And
Samuelson.
Here's another one. And if you're hitting them, that's fabulous. But if you're not, then you want to go ahead, work the ball around, penetrate a little bit into the gaps of the zone. We have yet to see Connecticut get the ball into that high post area, which will be available for them.
And the Huskies have now missed their last 6 shots for Gino Auriemma. And now is a good sign for LSU as number 13 has checked in. Rena Hill, a senior from Japan who missed the first 3 games after hurting her hip in a preseason game.
Yeah, she had a hip pointer in that game, and she's been sitting out. They've tried to rest her. They need her on the court. She's really the heart and soul of this team. And she had a good game against against Connecticut last time they played. So she's got that confidence you need.
In fact, she led them in scoring with 10 points last year in that loss up in Connecticut. Shot off the mark by Moncrief. And the Huskies trying to get something going on offense. Kia Nurse kicking it back out to Williams. Quick hands by Moncrief, forces the steals. And that is exactly what they needed if they can finish, and at least they'll get to hit free throws. But that goes to your point. If you steal it, get it in transition, you got to hit it. But LSU in this game as we hit our first timeout. The Huskies up 6-4. UConn Huskies winning their 4th championship last year. And there you see the winning streak. It was at 75 heading into the regular season and now up to 77. And they are 11 behind John Wooden's great teams had that 88-game winning streak. But the gold standard is the UConn women from 2008 to 2010 when they won an incredible 90 straight games.
It's just unreal. I mean, it's not just that they just had 4 national championships in a row. It's 4 out of the last 6. It's 9 straight Final Fours. I mean, it's the goal of every program to get to a Final Four, and they've gone to 9 straight. The consistency is really amazing. And how about 11-0 national championship games? Once they get there, they don't drop the ball. They just go ahead and finish it off. That's right. Moncrief hit 2 free throws. That's right. And to LSU, I'm very impressed with LSU with their poise that they're showing right now. 1 turnover at this point. Just really look comfortable, taking good shots, moving defensively. This is the best I've seen them play to this point. UConn has now missed its last 7 shots after hitting 2 of its first 3, and they are stone cold from the outside, just 1 of 6 from distance. But look who's coming in. The little dynamo, number 5. The Energizer Bunny is coming in. Crystal Dangerfield, who is listed at 5'5", and very poised. You had a chance to talk to her earlier. Very poised for a freshman. And she loves pressure. She loves competing. And as a point guard, that's what you want out of your point guard. Gabby Williams knifing her way through to break the drought. Gabby has 5 of UConn's 8 points. And now Collier forces the turnover, has Dangerfield to her right, and got the shot blocked by Moncrief. Regine Moncrief, who they sorely missed last year. Hill's first shot of the season, and it just won't dribble down. And see if Connecticut can get some more penetration against the zone. But if you're going to hit the 3, you can go ahead and take it. But I think Gino would like to get some penetration before that shot. Break down the zone just a little bit. Katie Lou Samuelson, their best 3-point shooter, hits her first bucket of the day, and it extends the lead up to 5. And you can see now Connecticut's settled into a zone a little bit as well. Gonna make it tough. And then Hill threw it away, and you don't see UConn play a lot of zone, but Katie Lou Samuelson starting to heat it up. Yeah, she's got the green light, and Gino wants her to be a little bit more physical, a little tougher. He said when Diana came here, she was a West Coast kid with an East Coast attitude. He said, and I love that, and we need more of that kind of attitude from Katie Lou. Katie Lou is from California, and sometimes a little bit too Californian for his taste as far as being kind of laid back. Collier muscles her way to another rebound. Samuelson, of course, a whole different dynamic this year. The floor is totally different because people are not guarding Jefferson, Stewart, and Tuck. Good work inside, and Collier will be rewarded with a couple of free throws. Well, and it's a conversation he had with Katie Lou Samuelson. He said, you know, last year you were open by accident. They were guarding our other players. This year you're getting defended by teams' best defensive players, so you've got to adjust and really work to get open. Shanice Norton, a sophomore from London, England, limps off the floor. Nikki Collins, the veteran athletic trainer, going to take a look as Collier heads to the free throw line. And boy, did she have an impressive first game with 28 points against Florida State. Also 8 rebounds and 4 blocks, including one in the waning seconds that preserved the lead for the Huskies. And Coach Ariama said, you know, at times she is unguardable in practice. None of our practice guys can guard her, but then she just disappears. If she makes a mistake or two, she'll disappear. So again, these young players are learning what it takes to consistently be great.
inside, and that's a nice bucket for Jasmine Rhodes, senior from Mobile, Alabama. Only 4 of these players on the floor for LSU played in that UConn game last year. Rhodes was one of them. Decimated by injury. Inside, good look, and Williams got hip checked by Rhodes, who's picked up a couple of quick fouls for LSU. Wouldn't it be nice to be in Maui for the Maui Invitational? Well, you can watch it on TV with the rest of us. The Maui Gym Maui Invitational starts tomorrow through Wednesday, and look at some of those heavyweights that will be playing. Wisconsin, Oregon, North Carolina all ranked. UConn after a slow start trying to get some things going. Check it out with the championship Wednesday, 10 Eastern time on the ESPN family of networks. Williams with 5 points and 5 rebounds, trying to get a free throw home as some size comes in now for Gino Auriemma. And redshirt junior Natalie Butler, the 6'5" transfer from Georgetown, in her second year playing for the Huskies. Gabby gets 1 out of 2 to extend the lead to 13-8.
And LSU likes to set this ball screen against the zone, look to get some penetration, skip it, and they love to get shooters in the corner. Nice job by Hyder inside. She's a tough guard, does a great job getting early position down low, 2 feet in the paint.
Hyder's first basket. She is from Austin, Texas, but started her collegiate career at North Texas in Denton. Samuelson misses, and we've got a whistle underneath and a foul against UConn.
Foul on number 15, Gabby Williams.
Gabby Williams called for her first personal foul. So Hyder, number 20 in gold, as we mentioned, coming over from North Texas, has already gotten her degree and has been a key cog for this team the last couple of years. Butler able to just use her length, by far the tallest player on the floor at 6'5". And from the corner, and Kia Nurse just can't buy a bucket right about now. But it is a good sign that at least she's still shooting when she's open from out there.
She's taking the shot, which is important. She looks much more comfortable than she has in the first few games. You can see that she's just been thinking too much. 4 points, 0 for 5 in her first game, 3 for 12 in the last game, and she's just, you can see that she's tight when she plays. And I think that's her trying to embrace a new role. You know, you forget Mariah Jefferson, she did the thinking for everyone on the court last year. You just got to play. Now, Kia Nurse is playing a lot at the point, so she's got to make good decisions with the basketball, but she's not playing freely. Sometimes when you think too much, you don't play.
She's 0 for 3 from the floor today, all of them from 3-point range. And there's Hyder, crafty to get inside.
Yeah, Hyder has great hands and great feet, and that's what you want out of a post player. Yes, she's undersized, but when you work to get such good position early, it doesn't matter how tall you are. She does a tremendous job inside.
And Dangerfield, she is not shy about taking that bucket and knocks it down, averaging 12 points so far.
And I'm just very impressed with her confidence level coming in as a freshman, as a point guard in this system with the expectations, lots of confidence.
And then Dangerfield almost forced a turnover. And a good pickup by Jackson. Redshirt sophomore from Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Shot clock is off. We got Nurse over to Dangerfield, and now Samuelson off the bounce. She's wanted to expand her game offensively this year, and she drew the foul.
You know, you see her putting it on the deck much more, and she's guarded much better than she was last year. So she's having to create her own shot a little bit, which is important for her to expand her game.
Ayanna Mitchell picks up the foul. Mitchell averaging 11 points per game, has not scored yet for the Tigers. And there goes Samuelson to the line, where she is 7 of 8 this year. Older sister Carly finishing up her collegiate career at Stanford this year. Bonnie, another Samuelson, played at Stanford, and here's your renegade, Katie Lee. Coming east to play at the University of Connecticut. Can they get a shot off? Yes, they do. It's a three-pointer, and it just cups out for Jenna Deemer, who is the long-range bomber for this LSU crew. But pretty good. So far, so good for LSU. They're in it.
Doing a great job getting the ball inside. Hyder, tremendous position inside. And then on the other end, once again, that rookie showing what she's got.
Thank you very much, Adnan. Pam Ward and Gail Gestincourt here. UConn only leading LSU by 4 after 1 quarter of play in Baton Rouge. A pair of unbeaten teams. Dangerfield. Oh, she just does it again.
Yeah, she's picking up right where she left off. Obviously feels very, very comfortable out on the court.
Adnan talking about Tennessee playing today. How about Vanderbilt pulling off a big win as they upset previously unbeaten Duke today? Women's basketball. Congratulations to Stephanie White, former colleague of ours. She's going to do some good things down at Vanderbilt.
She absolutely. She's a worker. She knows the game. I had the great fortune to work with her with the Indiana Fever, and she's a good one. She's going to have them going in no time at all.
Assisted by that Carolyn Peck person as well. So good win for Vandy early on in this season. LSU hanging in against a team that beat them by 46 last year. There's Hyder. You look at her and she might not pass the eye test, but when she certainly passes the basketball test.
She does, and so smart. Natalie Butler, she had her on the low block. Just a little show and go. She knows she can drive by Butler on the inside. And then you've got Butler down here. She's got to take advantage of her size against Hyder. Turn and score.
And Kia Nurse must feel a whole lot lighter as she finally hits a shot. Missed her first 3 today and has been struggling all year. Hyder got a block on Butler, who is 6 inches taller than she is. Outside shot, that's off the mark. Rebound scrambled for, and Dangerfield comes away with it, and she's going to look to run. Samuelson left alone. LSU has to find her.
And that's the one person you do not want to leave alone. And Coach Vargas calls a quick timeout, which she needs to. They're losing the shooters in the zone.
So Kia Nurse struggling with her shot all season long. Gets one to fall.
She does, and she's got to feel so good. The weight of the world is on her shoulder. Release it. Let it go.
Thank you, Adnan. We look forward to hearing from you and Andy. And yeah, it's a totally different dynamic here for this UConn team. And we talked to Gino Auriemma about it today and just how important that Baylor win was on Thursday. Baylor, #2 team in the country coming in. And this UConn team was able to withstand really everything that got thrown at them and came out with a huge win.
Yeah, he said he talked to the team after the game. He said, how does this feel? And they were just elated. And he said, well, how did this feel last year? Did you feel ever, anytime last year, the same way you felt after this game? And they all said no. And he said, that's because you owned this game. Last year, you didn't own those games. The big three did. Now you own it.
Dangerfield trying to go inside. In fact, Gino, in his typical blunt fashion, said, yeah, you didn't feel this way last year because you weren't playing. You weren't in the game in these situations. And, of course, you rely heavily Brianna Stewart, Mariah Jefferson, and Morgan Tuck all in the WNBA. But you can tell that Gino had a little, spark after that win. It was a very important win for this young team.
Yeah, I think he's really enjoying this season because he's having to do more. He's having a coach. He's having to really find out the right buttons to push to make this team, help this team become all that they can be.
Diana Mitchell picked up her second foul, and that sends Kyla Irwin. She is a freshman from State College, Pennsylvania, to the line. Her mom played at Penn State, and right now Penn State's pulling off an upset against Tennessee in the third quarter. Adnan, and we'll have a lot more along with Andy Katz at halftime about that upset in the making. Irwin along with Molly Bent, one of 3 freshmen with Dangerfield on this UConn team. Inside Hyder, that was a nice look, and she absolutely just blew it after a nice feed by Jackson. But they were fortunate enough to get the offensive rebound.
Yeah, she did all of her work, but she didn't just finish it off with that right-handed layup. You do the work, you deserve to score that layup.
Jackson gets it back to Hyder, and she takes a couple of steps. That was a good rotation by Irwin, the freshman, to get over there and force the turnover.
Yeah, that was a tough position to put Hyder in. You got to let her get down to the block a little bit. She's done all of her damage down low, so get her back on the block.
I want to remind you, we've got a good one coming for you next Sunday. Louisville and South Carolina, a couple of top 5 teams, will be squaring off in Springfield, Massachusetts. Irwin with the miss, and the rebound lands in the hands of Hyder. LSU, you talked about it earlier, Gail, how this LSU team can go into a drought. They've only scored 2 points so far here in the second quarter.
Yeah, at the end of the Wake game, which was a very close game, didn't score a bucket in the last 5.5 minutes of the game. They can't afford to have those kind of droughts against an excellent team like Connecticut.
They were able to beat Wake Forest 60-57. There are other wins coming at Louisiana Tech to start the season. And on Wednesday, they beat Rice. Tina Langley, the second-year head coach at Rice, putting that program together. And after this game, they're going to head off to the Virgin Islands for Thanksgiving to play in a tournament in St. Thomas. Hyder, definitely their go-to player.
The offense has become very stagnant for LSU. They've got to have some more ball movement.
How about Mitchell has only taken a couple of shots? Their second leading scorer, number 5 in gold, and she's on the weak side. Shot clock winding down. Back rim, and the smallest player on the floor, Jaylene Richard Harris, almost corralled it for LSU. Number 30 in gold, listed at 5'4", which might be a little generous.
I think it's very generous.
But she is a fun player to watch, a true freshman out of Houston. And Nikki Fargas, her head coach, says she plays bigger than she is. Kind of needs to when you're 5'4".
Yeah, she's a tremendous spark off the bench. Great anticipation in that zone. Leads the team in steals.
Also a pretty good artist. Trying to get some contribution now. Nurse can't hit 2 in a row. And the rebound is taken down by Chloe Jackson. Richard Harris, the small player of whom we just spoke, got it taken away by Dangerfield, who stepped right into the passing lane and then got it taken back, took it back again. So it was a lot of giveaways, and it culminates with Dangerfield with an opportunity at the free throw line. Only a few weeks left in the regular season of college football, and Tuesday at 7 Eastern on ESPN, the exclusive reveal of the latest college football playoff top 25 rankings. Reese Davis and the crew breaks them down from top to bottom. Available streaming live on the ESPN app, and watch ESPN. Not a lot of upsets yesterday, but we all look forward to Ohio State and Michigan. A couple of top 4 teams facing off on Saturday. Richard Harris with the foul and 2 free throws by Dangerfield. Now Dangerfield again making an impact off the bench, as she has contributed 8 points in only 9 minutes.
She may be coming off the bench now, but my prediction is that she will not be coming off the bench the rest of the season. She may for a little while, but that kid's a starter.
Wreaks havoc on the defensive end as well, and certainly has been a spark plug for them. And there you see, she's from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, said she was recruited by the University of Tennessee, but LSU was in her Final 5.
Right, and she said Tennessee had already signed a point guard in the previous year, so she loved Tennessee. It was a great process, she said, but, you know, they already had a point guard, so I saw that I had more of an option with Mariah Jefferson graduating to come in and play at Connecticut. And
there she's scrambling after a loose ball. Inside, and finally a decent look for Ayanna Mitchell.
And that was really nice penetration by Moncrief. Draw the defense, dish it to your teammate.
And LSU had gone almost 5 minutes without a field goal. They've scored just 4 points in this second quarter. They trailed by 4 after 1. Nurse bottled up, and a 3-second violation called against the Huskies.
And again, just doing a nice job driving to the basket, drawing the defense. When you draw that defense, your teammate's going to be open. Good job by Mitchell to finish.
And Mitchell was one of several Tigers who were hurt last year, played just 3 games, and then had surgery for a hurt disc. Second leading, or check that, the third leading scorer on this team. And she's got 4 so far. Mitchell, Hyder, Jackson, and Moncrief all averaging in double figures for Nikki Fargas's team.
Yeah, they've got a great balanced attack, and when they get everybody healthy, They're much improved over last year, no comparison.
And a nice drive by Mitchell, took it right to the hoop. And she'll have a chance for a three-point play.
Tremendous job again. They've got short post players, but the advantage that they have is that they can put it on the deck, get to the rim, and finish.
Mitchell can't get it to fall, and there's an over-the-back call on Jasmine Rhodes.
Foul number 10, Jasmine Rhodes. Third personal.
And for Rhodes, that is 3 personal fouls. Rhodes coming off the bench, averaging about 6.5 points per game. But she's going to have to take a seat probably for the remainder of the half.
Yeah, and that's a cardinal sin, 94 feet from the bucket. You don't want a cheap foul sit you on the bench the rest of the half.
Number 10 in blue, Molly Bent, a true freshman from Centerville, Massachusetts, has checked in for the Huskies. So Huskies, Chong, Nurse, Collier, and Samuelson out there for Oriema. Nurse left open, thought about it just for a second and delivered.
Leah Nurse for 3 points.
Yeah, you usually don't see her with that hesitation, but she is thinking she got that one to go. Maybe that'll loosen her up.
You know, Oriema said he had a conversation with Kia Nurse just about, she actually admitted that she felt overwhelmed against Florida State, felt that there was really too much on her shoulders, like she had too much responsibility, and he basically told her that she needs to relax, that he doesn't need her to be 40 minutes of great.
Yeah, and the fact that she was a starting guard for the Canadian national team, he said she's not playing like her experience should have her play. She's not playing like a national team Olympian.
That was an Olympic type assist as Kia was able to get it inside to Nafisa Collier.
Looked like some contact there.
And the lead is up to 14. One-handed rebound by Hyder, got stuffed, but a foul called. They're going to get the foul on Collier.
And again, Kia Nurse, I'm so happy for her that she continues to take the open shot. She's open. She's got to make people pay for that shot.
Kia Nurse, the starter on the Canadian national team in the Olympics in Rio. A lot was expected of them, but they were bounced relatively early in the quarterfinals in a loss to France. And Kia in that game was 3 of 17 from the floor. She started this season 3 of 17 from the floor, but is heated up with a couple of threes. And as you just saw, she is the preseason American Conference Player of the Year. So there are a lot of expectations on her and for her this year.
Yeah, and Gino talked about the fact with her, you know, she's always been the young player. And he said, who took charge on your national team? Well, the older players. Who took charge last year for us? The older players. He said, well, when are you going to be an older player?
Very skilled out of Hamilton, Ontario. Dangerfield. A step back, couldn't get it to go. Now LSU trying to bite into this lead. A good crowd at the Pete Maravich Center, and they are trying to will LSU back into this game.
And again, Moncrief calling for those ball screens. LSU loves to use the ball screens. Just led Hyder a little bit too much. She had her down low on the block. You got to feed her, got to get it right to her so she can go right into her shot.
Samuelson calling for it, and she's fouled as she takes the three-point shot, and it goes in. Hyder got a piece of Samuelson.
And that's what you love to see. Nice skip pass, hits the three, and it's the emotion. And those, see that emotion? I love that. We did not see that as much last year because the expectations for greatness, they made great plays every single time down the floor. It felt like they were making a great play, so it became just second nature. This Connecticut team, these young players, this is their first time in many of these situations, and you love that emotion.
UConn 5 of 7 from distance in the second quarter after they started off slowly from three-point range, and that was a very rare 4-point play for Samuelson.
In just a 4-point lead at the end of the first quarter, and now it's ballooned almost to a 20-point lead. That's what the three-point shot can do for you.
LSU is not a good three-point shooting team, so that's one way that they will not be able to get back into this game. Nurse going to drive it, and she gets tangled up with Jackson, and Eric Bruton calls Chloe for her first personal foul. Eric Bruton joined by Brian Enterline and Tyna Napier this afternoon. And that's something we saw more of with Nurse earlier in her career. Now a junior, particularly when she was a freshman, you would see her put it on the floor more, drive to the basket, and get fouled.
Yeah, I feel like she's been settling this year for outside shots, and they weren't falling. If it's not falling, get your butt to the basket, get to the free throw line.
Get your butt and the rest of you to the basket.
Everything goes to the basket.
Everything goes, and things often will turn out well. Collier takes a seat now for the Huskies. Nurse from a very athletic family. Her brother Darnell, a year older, playing for the Edmonton Oilers. As a 20-year-old, he was a major contributor for them. Very impressive family. Her uncle, through marriage, is Donovan McNabb, who was a pretty good quarterback at Syracuse in the NFL. Aunt was a point guard at Syracuse.
She's got the genes.
And she's having a very nice second quarter today. Lead is up to 19 as we approach 1 minute to go in the half. Rena Hill back in the game, coming off that hip pointer, and a much needed bucket for Chloe Jackson.
Yeah, nice ball movement that time. Much better for LSU. They've got to move the ball, make that defense work and rotate, and they'll get those open jumpers.
Jackson now with 6 points.
Not a lot of ball movement here for Connecticut.
Samuelson just absolutely hounded by Moncrief, and finally a foul is called against LSU.
Foul number 11.
We are going to go to Maui starting tomorrow through Wednesday. The Maui Gym, Maui Invitational, men's basketball, some of the finest in the nation, starting off tomorrow at 2:30 Eastern time on ESPN2 as Tennessee takes on Wisconsin. Other quality basketball culminating 10 Eastern time on ESPN2 Wednesday with the championship. Samuelson back to the free throw line. Samuelson has had good numbers in her first couple of games. She scored 14 in the season opener against Florida State, had 16 against Baylor, but still more expected from her as the season rolls on. And she has had a very nice first half for Gino Auriemma. 14 points, she's hit 3 threes. There's a steal, Bent gets it over to Dangerfield, and the two freshmen combined for a bucket. And the lead is now over 20 points. Shot clock is off. Moncrief found a little bit of an opening, and Rena Hill followed it, nothing doing. Ball was grabbed by Mitchell, and with 0.3 seconds left, the whistle blew, and LSU will inbound it. Tie up. Possession arrow pointing in LSU's favor. Just time to get off a very quick shot, and that won't do it. LSU outscored in the second quarter 28-11 as UConn started hitting their threes. They are 8 of 16 from 3. 3 of them from Samuelson, Kia Nurse with a couple as well. And the Huskies will take a 46-25 lead into the half as the Huskies try to go to 3-0 and extend their winning streak to 78 in a row. Let's go over now to Gail Gestenkors.
Hey, Gino, much better job in the second half. Tell me how you felt about the first quarter versus the second quarter.
Yeah, it just seemed like things were somewhat disorganized in the first. It seemed like everybody who touched the ball lost it or got it tipped, or we just couldn't get any. I think we settled down. You know, we got into a little bit of a rhythm, and the ball started moving a little bit easier, and you know, and then when you make some shots, everything looks great, right? So it's a weird style of play, you know, that they have. So you got to kind of figure it out.
What's your message going to be to your team at halftime?
Well, we have to just do a better job of moving. They want to match up with us on offense, so we find ourselves standing a lot. And we had talked about the more we move, the more difficult it's going to be for them to guard us. But I think we have too many instances where we just stand and watch, so we got to clean that up.
All right, good luck.
This is the first team that has played zone against UConn all year. Now to the studio, Adnan Burt and Andy Katz. Welcome back to Baton Rouge. This is the SEC on ESPN. Second half about to get underway. Number 3 UConn leading LSU 46-25. They outscored LSU by 17 in the second quarter. This is Feast Week presented by Lowe's. And Gino Auriemma's team with a sparkling second quarter to take this lead. Pam Ward along with Gail Gestenkors. And a lot of new talent we're seeing this year in bigger roles for UConn, and it's a balanced team.
That's right. I mean, everybody's role has changed this year, everybody's, and they've embraced it. And what we saw in the first quarter, they were struggling a little bit, only up by 4 at the end of the first, but then they understood the zone, moved the ball, shared the ball, made that extra pass that they're always known for. 10 of their baskets have been assisted. 10 of 12 have been assisted. So just did a fantastic job moving the ball and hitting that three-pointer.
And Crystal Dangerfield off the bench with 10 points and just about 12 minutes of work. Kia Nurse has found her outside shot. Samuelson continuing to be consistent. She has scored in double figures now in all 3 games. But how about UConn making 8 threes and only 4 twos?
Well, it's a good thing when you're hitting them. You know, it took them a while, I think, to figure out the zone. But they figured it out, and again, they come out firing in the second half as well.
And that's one way to bust up a zone, is with the three-point shot. Good defense that time by Mitchell. UConn also big at the free throw line. 14 points from the free throw line. And an offensive foul called against LSU. They're going to get Mitchell for swinging an elbow, and that is foul number 3 for her.
And I like the idea. LSU's got to go inside more. Both Mitchell, she was 3 for 4 from the field. Hyder, 3 for 4 from the field. They're shooting their best percentage, but they both only have 4 shots.
Almost forced a turnover, but Williams somehow was able to come away with it. Nurse with the drive, and that's a nice finish.
And that's more what we're used to seeing from her in the past, is really finding those gaps, attacking the rim.
Had that conversation with Coach Auriemma on Friday, trying to ease some of the pressure that Kia has put on herself. And after a slow start to this game, she's played well.
And again, Connecticut in this zone, because LSU does not shoot the 3 well at all, they can sit in this zone. And with Katie Lou Samuelson up at the top of the zone, that's a lot of size to go up to try to get around. Nice job to hit that shot, but she's got some good length with those arms, Katie Lou does.
Samuelson at 6'3". That was Shanice Norton, sophomore from London, England. She has played on some English national teams. LSU, as you mentioned, is not good at all from 3. 0 for 3 today from distance. For the season, they are 4 for 37 from 3. That's not good.
That's painful.
Yeah.
But what you do when you can't hit the 3, again, you've got to get to the rim. And right now, only 3 for 5 from the free throw line for LSU. So they've got to do a better job finding the gaps, getting to the rim, using their quickness on the inside.
Nice block out of bounds by Mitchell, but that last foul was against Alexis Hyder. The leading scorer and rebounder now has 3 personal fouls for the Tigers.
And I really didn't see that foul. I thought she came around. I didn't see the contact. Thought she did a nice job.
And 2 in a row for the Brit.
And that's Shanice Norton's shot right there. If they can score, they want to score in transition before UConn gets their defense set. They're a good team defensive team. Individually, just okay, just average defensively, but as a team, very, very good when they get set.
A couple unbeaten teams meeting here right before Thanksgiving. Hyder couldn't finish. And a nice slash to the basket. That's Moncrief.
And again, much more aggressive to start the second half, trying to make an exerted effort to get the ball in the paint, get to the rim.
No doubt that was part of the message from Nikki Fargas, their head coach, during the break. And One other message, guard number 33.
Yeah, again in this zone, too many times Katie Lou Samuelson has been wide open on the weak side, so they've got to have better communication on that weak side. Know where your shooter is.
Samuelson has hit 4 threes today. LSU has hit 4 threes all season. Good defense as Williams was tied up. Possession arrow sends it the other way.
Again, Samuelson, she's got the green light. And again, just making that extra pass. The skip pass has always been open against this zone. She's spotting up. See the three, be the three.
Moncrief ran into Williams, took the contact, and made the shot.
And this is by far the best game Moncrief has played this season. You know, she's coming back from being out with that knee injury all last year, so it's nice to see her confidence level really improving. That's the type of player she needs to be. Take it to the rim. An explosive jumper, does a great job finishing.
Had microfracture surgery on her knee, and Samuelson making it look easy. She's now got 20. Excuse me, that is a new season high for her, and just 2 off her career high that she set in the NCAA tournament last year. You might recall she was playing really well and then got hurt in the national semifinal game.
Right, Coach Vargas talked about the fact, she said, our zone doesn't look like it used to, like it did last year. And she said, but then I realized a lot of these players weren't playing last year, so they don't really understand the concepts yet of the zone.
Kia Nurse coming alive.
Coach Vargas may want to get a timeout here. It's getting away from him quick with those threes. And that happens a lot. When one player gets on a roll with the threes, the confidence level really permeates throughout the team.
Outside shot off the mark by Norton. UConn permeating this LSU defense so far from outside, as the Huskies have now made 11 threes. 11 of 22 from outside the arc. Kia Nurse getting things going along with Samuelson. 25 seconds on the shot clock.
Yeah, we talked about the fact they hadn't seen a zone yet this year, so that first quarter, I think it took them some time to adjust to the zone, and now they have clearly adjusted.
Yeah, I think they got it. Collier able to get a hand on it. Collier with a quiet first half, only had 3 points. 28 on opening day against Florida State, 10 points and 11 rebounds against Baylor. But they have found outside scoring today.
And I think that's going to probably be the story of these Connecticut Huskies this year. It's going to be a different player every night. I don't know that they're going to have one consistent leading scorer night in and night out. I think it's going to take a true team effort.
Collier just picked up her 3rd personal foul for the Huskies. Crashing to the floor, Moncrief, nothing called. And here comes Sanaya Chung into the game for UConn. Natalie Butler will check in at the next whistle for the Huskies. Chung had an injury last year, never really got going.
LSU's had to come out of that zone, going to man-to-man.
Contact. And we are going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk to Charlie Cream about things that we have seen so far and what we will expect to see as this season rolls on. Laficia College has picked up her 4th foul for the Huskies. The 3 has been very, very good to UConn so far today. Welcome back to Baton Rouge, where LSU is trailing UConn 57-35, and we are now joined by our women's basketball expert, bracketologist Charlie Cream. And Charlie, it seems to be certainly a more wide open year than we would have expected the last 4 years with UConn, and these are Charlie's top 4 seeds right now. Granted, we're not even at Thanksgiving yet. UConn, Louisville, Notre Dame, South Carolina, and you see the 2nd seeds as well. But Charlie, very impressive win so far for UConn against Florida State and Baylor. So they really are looking like a #1 seed. Are you surprised by this, by how much they lost last year?
I'm not surprised that they've been successful, and obviously still putting them on the top line is something that would be more shocking to see them not, even with the losses that they sustained with their roster from last year. I didn't have them as the #1 overall seed. That might surprise some people. But I think at this point, with the win over Baylor and going on the road over Florida State, I think you could make an argument that perhaps they really should be now not only just the #1 seed, but maybe the #1 team in the country.
Do you think, Charlie, looking at some of the upsets we had, obviously the Vandy Duke game today, Stanford beating Texas, and then Gonzaga beating Stanford, the Tennessee-Penn State game that just finished, Penn State beating Tennessee. What do those kind of wins and or losses for whomever, what do those do to the bracket?
Well, I think we're seeing more of those early on this season than we have seen maybe in the past few seasons. So a lot of people talk about the wide open nature of the field this year because UConn has maybe taken a few steps back to the rest of the field. But seeing those kinds of upsets further down in the bracket is going to create some chaos later on when we really get into conference play, and then you're starting to evaluate the differences. A Gonzaga now maybe enters the realm of an at-large team, whereas perhaps without that win over Stanford, they would never even be considered. And those are the kinds of things that then trickle down and impact some of the bigger conference teams that are fighting for those last few at-large. Now they have a team like perhaps the Gonzaga to compete against with that big win that the Zags had over Stanford. And that's just one example. For sure, a Western Kentucky beating Indiana is another one where now Western Kentucky has to be considered probably all year long as a mid-major at-large possibility.
And just sticking with the SEC right now, we just mentioned that Penn State has pulled off the upset, beating Tennessee by 14. Vanderbilt with the upset over Duke. How many SEC teams are you looking at right now, Charlie, in your bracket to get in?
I had 8 in the preseason bracket, and Vanderbilt was right there, just in the field, but right on the cusp when the last 4 teams in. Obviously, a win like this over Duke today helps solidify that spot right now, but obviously we have a long way to go. And I think even watching LSU today, even though they're down big to UConn, it's noticeable this is a better LSU team than we had last year. I think they have a chance to be in the mix and maybe compete for a spot in the field as well.
Iana Mitchell getting that basket. You're right, this was a team that was absolutely decimated by injuries last year, but it should be interesting for you, a very fluid situation as our bracketologist, and you just look at UConn's remaining schedule in the non-conference: Texas, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Maryland, and then once they get into the American Conference, things kind of, obviously their RPI will go down a little bit, but it should be an interesting year for you, Charlie.
Well, it always is. It's even more interesting this year because of basically what you just said. The schedules of some of these teams at the top play make it that much more compelling. I think Andy Katz touched on it a little bit at halftime. UConn's playing a schedule that would match up with any kind of schedule in any sport, really, among the toughest you could possibly put yourself in. I think it would be a surprise if this winning streak continued through that. I think this UConn team is very good, but I don't think they're good enough to get through that gauntlet of a schedule unscathed. But the wins they've already been able to produce, I think, make them a pretty solid choice for a 1 seed, and they're going to be a 1 or a 2 seed, I think, when all things are settled at the end of the year anyway.
Yeah, very impressive work by them, and by you too, Charlie. We'll continue to check out your bracketology all through the season. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Charlie Cream is all over everything, and we just mentioned, Gail, look at this. Look at this Murderer's Row schedule that they will play coming up.
Well, and I think Gino knows his goal is always to prepare his team for a national championship, and he's got to really go heavy early on with some of those powerhouse teams, because he knows once he gets into conference play, they're not going to get the same kind of competition that they need to have to test themselves and find out what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, what do we need to work on to become the team we need to be.
In fact, they have not lost a game in the American Conference, either regular season or tournament, since that conference came into being a few years ago, and they will play South Carolina. And that game will be coming up on February 13th, towards the end of the season. But a very impressive resume that they will be building up. And that's an impressive move by Moncrief to get into double figures.
Really, in this second half, Regine Moncrief, this is the player that we expected to see all season long, that we saw 2 years ago before her injury.
A couple years ago, averaged 12 points, 7 rebounds, SEC All-Freshman selection the year before that, and then got hurt last year. And right now is coming into her own, has the ball in her hands, and she's an outstanding student, electrical engineering. That's a real major.
That's a real difficult major.
Yes. That was your major, right?
Yeah.
No. And there's a foul. They're going to get Williams for being a little bit too handsy on Hyder. UConn led by 4 after 1 quarter, up 11 at the half. Or excuse me, 21 at the half. And the lead now 59-40. Williams has 3 fouls.
And just really impressed with the way that LSU has continued to fight. You know, when a team is just raining threes on you, sometimes you can put your head down, you can get really depressed, but they have continued to fight. They've become more aggressive on the offensive end, which is exactly what they've needed. We talked to Coach DeMoss earlier. This was her scout, and she said, you know, we have got to fight, and when times get tough, we can't worry about it. We just got to play our own game and continue to fight, and they have.
Especially considering that this LSU team lost by 46 in Connecticut last year without Brianna Stewart on the floor. 18-point lead for UConn. There's a foul away from the ball, and Eric Bruton got Shanice Norton for the hold. And there is the aforementioned Mickey DeMoss, the Wiley veteran, who is in her first year here, the Louisiana Tech grad who was on the bench for Pat Summitt on so many of those championships. And there you see just a touch of the resume. And you had a chance to coach with her at Indiana.
No, I was.
You just missed
my
her.
assistant
Okay.
actually at Texas.
All right,
for
I
3
knew you
years.
had her somewhere. Sorry about
when
that.
I took the Texas job, I was smart. Got her to be my assistant when we first started. So she's been around the game forever, and she is the best in the business as far as assistant coaches go. And yeah, Coach Vargas was telling us she not only coached, but she recruited every member on their staff. She recruited them and she coached them.
Including Nikki Fargas, who was known as Nikki Caldwell back when she played at Tennessee. Nikki won 3 national championships with Pat Summitt, and
1 as a player and 2 as her assistant coach.
Mickey DeMoss, and there's Holly Warlick, now the head coach at Tennessee. And again, Tennessee lost today. Big win for Penn State. That's a big win for Coquise Washington. And the Lady Lions taking out Tennessee today. And there you see Nikki's resume.
Yeah, we talk about more parity this year. Every year we talk about it. This year we're really hoping to believe it.
Yeah.
But until UConn loses a game, you know, I'm not going to believe it. It's like somebody's got to step up, and we saw who they're getting ready to play. They got to go through the gauntlet, and you have to believe somebody's going to come through and have, it's not just the physical talent, it's the mental toughness to beat this Connecticut team.
So if you were to fill out a top 25, would they be your #1 team right now, UConn?
They would. They would. I believe South Carolina could be up there. Obviously, Notre Dame. I'm anxious to see both of those games because either of those teams, I expect both of those teams to be in the Final Four.
Gabby Williams now with 7. UConn will be playing Notre Dame in South Bend on December 7th. That's an ESPN2 game. As we go towards the final 30 seconds of the 3rd quarter. 20-point advantage for the Huskies. Hyder cradled it, missed it. But look at the hustle. That's what you're talking about. How about Hyder? You're down 20 and you're still busting your butt to get the ball, as is Samuelson. Great hustle by both sides. Nurse pounded and lost the ball. And these LSU fans appreciating the hustle. Will it pay off? Yes!
They call an offensive foul.
Oh, take the basket away from Mitchell.
The crowd not happy, but that was an excellent call. She was down low, inside the box.
And that was a double whammy for LSU. Not only did they not get the basket, but that was the 4th foul for Mitchell. But great hustle from both sides in the 3rd quarter. LSU facing a big deficit in large part because of the outside shooting of the Huskies. They have 11 threes so far. North Carolina taking on Chaminade, who very famously years and years ago took out Georgetown. You remember that, right?
I
You were a little kid in
that
Michigan.
Game. Yes, I do. And you know what? LSU's got to feel really good. In that quarter, they actually outscored Connecticut by 1. So all of their hustle, their effort, their energy paid positive dividends in that quarter.
But then some negative energy, if you're an LSU fan, is Katie Lou Samuelson now with 23 points. And that is a new career high for her. At 22 in that NCAA game against Robert Morris last March. Samuelson finding her shot today. And UConn now has 12 threes and only 5 made twos. How about that? They can hurt you from so many different areas. Contact before the ball's even thrown in. I think they're going to get Gabby Williams. Double check. They will indeed. So UConn now has 3 games under their belt, or soon will. There's Gabby picking up another foul. In their first game, it was the Nafisa Collier show. Nafisa had 28. And then it was Crystal Dangerfield with 19 to lead them in their second game against Baylor. And tonight, it's Katie Lou.
And I think we're going to see that trend all season long. It's going to be a different scorer, leading scorer, and probably leading rebounder on every night.
Rhodes has just picked up her 4th foul for LSU. The dominance of the National Player of the Year last year, and Brianna Stewart, who more often than not led them in scoring. And this year, it's looks like a committee. Gabby Williams uses the left hand and misses. And now LSU with a chance to break free. They haven't had a lot of transition opportunities in the second half. And they can't take advantage of that one. Freshman Molly Bent got it taken away. And that one does roll in. And you're right, Moncrief looks like the Moncrief we remember from a couple of years ago, and that's a very positive sign for LSU.
It is, and you know, anytime kids come off of those ACL injuries, just because they're healthy, I think it takes them a little time to get comfortable and confident that their knee is going to hold.
Samuelson couldn't hold on to the pass from Nurse. Inside 8 minutes, Hyder, transfer from North Texas, gets the ball over to Rhodes. And transfers really have played a big part and will continue to play a big part in women's college basketball. Diamond DeShields, probably the biggest one last year, the biggest name going from North Carolina over to Tennessee, and there's a foul away from the ball.
Yeah, we saw so many, and we're seeing more and more, it seems, every year of the transfers. And you look at this list right here, number 2 player in the country, Kayla Davis, having a big year already with South Carolina, had the 30 points in her first game. Taya Raymer, all those kids, highly recruited kids, went to one school, all major programs, and have all transferred out and now having impact at their new schools.
And one that will have a huge impact on UConn next year, Azarae Stevens, the transfer from Duke. Katie Lou, how do you do? She has been amazing today.
Yeah, LSU, this will be a great teaching tape for LSU because they certainly have not done a good job finding the shooters. And again, Connecticut has several shooters, but you know who their number 1 3-point shooter is. It's that woman right there, Katie Lou Samuelson.
I think Gina Auriemma, who is, even though she's had a couple of good scoring games, wants to see more from her in her all-around game, and I would imagine he's going to be quite pleased with what he's seeing today.
Yeah, and Katie Lou, once again, just does a really nice job. If you back off of her, you can't back it. You want to make her put it on the deck. She should see no daylight. There should be no space. You got to make her put it on the deck.
Norton just picked up her 4th for LSU. Hyder takes a seat for the Tigers. Azuree Stevens going to come over from Duke, and they've been calling her Stewie Light, as in Brianna Stewart Light, and she really is skilled at 6'6". Going to get coached up in stores. And what do you think? Better get them now, because next year they're going to be dynamic again. They're going to get Megan Walker, a great recruit coming in.
#1 recruit in the nation.
There's a travel.
And #1 recruiting class again in the nation.
Azuree Stevens got some skill.
And Azuree, yeah, I predict she will be player of the year within the next year or two in the nation. Gino talking to him today, he said if she stays for her senior year at Connecticut, I predict she will be the #1 pick in the WNBA draft. So she has, at 6'5", 6'6", she's got all kinds of skills. She can score in so many ways, and you saw as well, block shots, changed games with her defense.
She will have 2 years of eligibility remaining when she becomes eligible next year. Averaged 16 points, 9 rebounds, 52% from the floor for Duke last year as a sophomore. But wanted the opportunity to play at UConn, and she got it. She was recruited by them out of high school.
And let's not forget about Batuli Kamara from Kentucky. Big, strong, athletic, 6'2" kid. I mean, she is a beast. Does a little bit of everything. She's going to really improve their overall team defense as well, because she gets after you.
UConn with a comfortable 20-point lead as we approach 5 minutes to go in this game. Samuelson having a career day, and there's a rare 2 for her, and a rare 2 in this game at least for the Huskies.
And that's where she's really worked to expand her game. She doesn't want to just be known as a three-point shooter. She's done a much better job this season trying to take the ball to the basket.
28 points in 33 minutes for Samuelson. That is her first 2 today. First 2-point make after nailing 7 of 11 threes. New career highs both in made threes and in points today for the sophomore from Huntington Beach, California. Went to the same high school as Kalina Mosqueda Lewis, who could hit a 3 or 2 in her day. Most threes in the history of the game. And she played at Connecticut. Contact and a foul on Deemer's shot.
And Dangerfield, she's back in. We haven't seen much of her in the second half. She had the big first half, 10 points in 12 minutes, and haven't seen her in the second half.
Deemer at the foul line. She missed 12 games last year. She was out with an illness, so another one of those Lady Tigers that Nikki Fargas thought she could rely on, but missed a huge gulp of time because of injury or illness.
And they really need Jenna Deemer to get her confidence back, to get healthy. You know, she's their best three-point shooter, and on the season she's only 2 of 20 from the 3, and she is really their only three-point shooter. They only have made 4 on the season, so they've got to get her on track to loosen up defenses a little bit.
Inside, what a pass from Dangerfield, threading the needle to find Collier. And that is Collier's first bucket, excuse me, of the second half. Deemer, who is from New Orleans, handling the ball as the shot clock goes to single digits. Takes it herself and just a little bit too strong. Kyla Irwin, Molly Bent, and Dangerfield. So all three freshmen in the game at the same time for Gino Auriemma. But it's the sophomore from out west, Katie Lou Samuelson. Gail, I think she's going to hit a 2.
What? Katie Lou? What? Shooting 2?
Welcome back. LSU trailing UConn 71-48 with just over 4 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. ESPNW is the place to go to get all of your quality women's sports information. If you go there now, you can hear LaChina Robinson always with an entertaining Around the Rim podcast. And Gail Gestencourt had a cute little pregame chat with Crystal Dangerfield. And Gail, over 30,000 people have already watched your chat. You were that good.
That's the
spectacular.
power of Crystal Dangerfield.
So?
Absolutely.
Outside shot knocked down by Collier. And Dawn Staley is LaChina's guest on the podcast, and that was a very entertaining segment. So lots of stuff on ESPNW. And what will be really man, we can't wait for this season to unfold. It's going to be interesting. UConn still really the big dog to beat, but so many great storylines already developing this early. A lot of great early season matchups yet to come. Most of those games coming on ESPN or ESPN2. Gonna be fun as we head towards Dallas for the Final Four, the end of March. Dangerfield.
She loves that ball screen. So good with the ball screen. In Connecticut, because they're smaller this year, they're using more ball screens, and that's perfect for Crystal Dangerfield because she makes good decisions coming off of those ball screens. Whether to shoot, pass, penetrate, she can do it all.
Knows the game really well. Comes from a military family. Both of her parents were in the Army and served in the Middle East. And she said she got discipline. That's what you got, as you might expect growing up. And just very poised. A lot of times you talk to freshmen, that's a super cut. And the freshmen found each other as Bent and Irwin connected. But a lot of times you talk to freshmen and they sound like 18-year-old kids. She sounds a little bit more mature.
She really does. And, you know, Gino talked about the fact a lot of people are trying to compare her to Mariah Jefferson. She's not Mariah Jefferson. He said when Mariah came in, people would say, what's the best thing about Mariah? He said, she's fast. Well, what else? She's quick. Well, what else? She's fast. But he said, basically, that this kid understands tempo. She knows when to push. She knows when to pull back. She knows she can hit the 3, penetrate. He said she just really understands tempo much better at this stage than Mariah did. He compared her body type and just the way she plays. Allen Iverson, not a bad comparison.
Terrific comparison. Nafisa Collier has just fouled out for the Huskies. 8.7 rebounds. And this is the 3rd player to foul out for UConn this year. Last year, nobody fouled out for them.
0. Yes, pretty amazing. That's how disciplined they were last year.
We invite all of you to tune in tonight to Sports Center at Night with John Butchergross and Stan Barrett. He's a Louisiana guy, Stan. I'll have all the college basketball, NBA, and NHL highlights, as well as the rest of the day in sports. Boomer and Herm will join the show for NFL highlights. Sports Center at Night on ESPN, and of course, on the ESPN app. And watch ESPN. The Vikings' 4-game losing streak came to a skidding halt today, finally.
You're a happy
all
girl.
over that. Hyder inside, boy. She's had a tough go of it in the second half and continues to battle.
She has. She's just got such nice touch on the inside. So I thought Moncrief did a nice job finding her, penetrating, finding her. Again, we talked about the fact she's got good hands, nice soft touch inside. Just needs to get more opportunities, more shots, but you got to work to get the opportunities.
It's a 3-point play. She scored 15 points in each of the first 3 games for LSU, has 11 so far tonight. So LSU about to go down for the first time in this very young season. And then they will head off to St. Thomas, the Virgin Islands, where they will play UTEP, Kansas State, and NC State. UConn will take now a 78-game winning streak into their next game, where they will host Dayton on Tuesday. As they continue to creep up on the 2008 to 2010 version of the 90-game winning streak. UCLA men won 88 in a row back in the 70s.
And don't sleep on Dayton. Dayton's one of those mid-majors. They usually shoot the three very, very well, share the ball very well, so you can't fall asleep on Dayton.
Very well coached. Of course, Dayton was a team a couple of years ago that gave UConn their toughest run in the NCAA tournament.
And again, LSU just continuing to battle. So Coach Vargas, you know, she said, we will play together as a team, and they have done that tonight. A little bit outmanned, but they played hard, they played together.
And have not quit through this entire game. Butler gets the rebound, and Dangerfield going to walk it up as UConn's about to go to 3-0 on the season. And have now won, will have won 125 of their last 126 games. Unbelievable.
Foul on number 11. Regine Moncrief.
Moncrief just picked up her third foul for LSU. Just in the month of December, UConn back-to-back games. How about this? Back-to-back games against Texas and Notre Dame. Then they go to Kansas State and play Ohio State, Nebraska, and Maryland. That's a December.
That's a schedule where you're trying to prepare your team to win another national championship.
Steal by Hyder. But it was a 3-ball for UConn today, as Connecticut has made 14 threes and only 8 twos. 14 of 26 from distance. That's 54% from beyond the arc against this LSU zone.
Jackson, 0, shoot 2.
Gino Auriemma's team, a variety of ways that they can hurt you. You don't just have to guard. Last year, primarily Breanna Stewart, and now it's 3 games, 3 different scorers. As an opposing coach, would you rather try to guard one stud or have to go, oh my gosh, there's 4 or 5 people who can come up big?
It's always more difficult when you have that balance. You can stop or at least slow down one great player, but when you've got any player can step up on a team, it makes it much more difficult to defend.
And today it was Katie Lou Samuelson with a new career high 28 points. Katie Lou hit 7 of 11 from 3. So UConn has now won 78 straight games. They take it 76-53. SportsCenter is coming up next. Another big game for UConn. For Gail Gestencourt and the rest of our crew here in Baton Rouge, I'm Pam Ward, as we say, so long. UConn keeps rolling as they win in Baton Rouge.